On a rainy December 10th, 1968, in the bustling streets of Tokyo, Japan, a brazen heist took place. A lone figure disguised as a police officer pulled off the single largest bank robbery in Japanese history, stealing a staggering 300 million yen, approximately $3 million today. Yes, you heard that right. But who was the mastermind behind the heist? Where did the money go? And will the mystery of the 300 million yen robbery ever be solved? Let's find out. The year 1968 marked a significant turning point in Japan's financial history, characterized by a combination of remarkable economic growth and the emergence of challenges that would shape the nation's future. The breakneck pace of economic growth began to exert upward pressure on prices, resulting in an inflation rate exceeding 5%. This posed challenges for Japanese citizens as their purchasing power eroded, making it more expensive to maintain their standard of living. As a consequence, a range of criminal activities began to surface in succession. So did the heist. Just 4 days before the actual heist, someone sent a letter to the manager of Nihon Shintaku Ginko Bank demanding 300 million yen, or they'd blow up his house with dynamite. Though that was not his first death threat. It's pretty usual for a man in that position. However, what's interesting is that this letter was put together using characters cut out from movie magazines. As you can imagine, this got the police involved right away. They surrounded both the manager's house and the bank, keeping a sharp lookout for any potential intruders. But despite all this, the bank manager was still pretty worried, and he talked about it with his branch staff. You know how it goes in Japan, though. Work is work, and they had to keep things running no matter what was happening. The bank manager had to dispatch 4 of his employees to the nearby Toshiba factory to carry out a planned cash transfer. These 4 workers were transporting 294,307,500 yen, which equated to roughly 817,520 United States dollars at the 1968 exchange rates. They had the money stored in metal boxes, and their mission was to deliver bonuses to the Toshiba Fuchu complex employees. However, shortly after leaving the bank, the 4 employees began to hear the sound of approaching police sirens. To make matters even more tense, they happened to be driving near a prison at that precise moment. Out of nowhere, a police officer on a motorcycle abruptly stopped in front of the car. The officer dismounted and urgently informed them that the branch manager's house had been explosively destroyed, resulting in injuries and potentially casualties. Even with the police closely watching the situation, the threat remained unresolved. Moreover, more threats were issued, escalating the danger. To compound matters, the bank in particular became a prime target, putting the employees themselves in jeopardy. The police officer got off his motorcycle and bent down to check underneath the car. However, before he could conduct a thorough search, one of the employees noticed smoke coming from the car. This raised concerns that the car might explode, so the officer urgently tried to roll away from it. In a hurry, everyone dashed away from the vehicle, seeking shelter behind the prison walls. They anxiously waited for the expected explosion, but surprisingly, there was no detonation. After a while, they cautiously left their hiding spots only to discover that the company car had disappeared, along with the police officer. It was as if he had never been there in the first place. Amid their bewilderment, the employees contacted the bank manager to unravel the mystery. To their great relief, the bank manager himself picked up and assured them that he was perfectly safe. In fact, there had been no explosion at his home whatsoever. Rather than getting answers, this revelation led to more questions. As it turned out, the entire incident was a cunning scheme orchestrated by the culprits. The individual posing as a police officer had successfully deceived everyone and made off with all the money without encountering any obstacles. Back then, a heist of this magnitude required assembling a top-notch team to apprehend the mastermind. Just minutes after hearing about the robbery, the Tokyo police went into full gear. They set up a state of emergency all over Tokyo and had checkpoints at every crossroad, checking every car. The police were really hopeful that with their fast action and this huge net they cast, they'd catch the robber. But despite a whole day at the checkpoints, they had to face the fact that the thief had managed to get away. Several weeks of police efforts passed, and it was eventually confirmed that the thief had driven the car to a nearby park. There, he moved the boxes filled with money into another stolen vehicle. After this point, all leads dried up. The investigation had hit a dead end, leaving the authorities with only a black and white sketch of the suspected culprit to work with. Under immense pressure to crack the case, the police began interrogating potential suspects, young men with motorcycles residing in West Tokyo. However, these inquiries yielded no leads. A massive police operation swung into action, putting up a staggering 780,000 photo montages all across Japan. They had a list of 110,000 potential suspects, and an astonishing 170,000 police officers were on the case, the largest investigation Japan had ever witnessed. They went as far as collecting fingerprints from the crime scene and meticulously comparing them to a colossal database of 6 million prints, one by one. But here's the kicker: they couldn't find any matches. There were some early leads that seemed promising. A letter received on December 6th resembled several threats sent earlier in the year to the Tama Agricultural Cooperative from April to August 1968. These letters varied from demanding money to threatening arson and bombings at the cooperative. When the police compared the handwriting from these letters with a letter sent to the Japan Trust Bank, they matched. This meant that the Tama Cooperative extortion attempts, the Japan Sun Trust extortion case, and the 300 million yen incident were all connected by the same person. Interesting, right? The criminal also left behind a lot of evidence. This included the Yamaha motorcycle he used, a hunting hat, a road flare, and a magnet. The police even identified the criminal's blood type as B from the saliva on the postage stamps of the letters. However, in a discussion by Gendai Media featuring author Nagase Yunsuke, manga writer Watanabe Jun, and former detective Etu Shiru, all three experts suggested that the criminal might have been more lucky than skilled. First, they noted that the motorcycle had a loosely attached rain canopy. If a car had run over this tarp while the criminal was escaping, it could have caused a serious accident. Second, although it was initially thought that the crime scene behind Fuchu prison was chosen for its seclusion, there were actually quite a few witnesses, including guards in the prison tower. This indicates that the location might not have been the best choice for avoiding detection. Third, Watanabe Jun, who detailed the crime in his manga, A Composite of the Mysterious 300 Million Yen Incident, suggested that the phone call to the Japan Trust Bank 4 days before the heist might not have been a clever setup, but rather a failed extortion attempt. The criminal behind the 300 million yen theft might have just seized an opportune moment. Interestingly, a total of 120 pieces of evidence were left behind at the crime scene. There was even speculation that the thief might be the son of a serving police officer within the department. As a result, they questioned a 19-year-old individual, the son of such an officer. Tragically, on December 15, 1968, he died from potassium cyanide poisoning. He didn't have a solid alibi to clear his name. Oddly enough, the stolen money wasn't discovered in his possession at the time of his death. Officially, his death was ruled as a suicide, and he was considered not guilty according to the official record. Then, on December 12, 1969, the Mainichi Shimbun newspaper pointed the finger at a 26-year-old guy as a suspect. He got arrested on unrelated charges, but he had a solid alibi. Turns out, the heist went down on the day he was taking a supervised test, so that arrest was a mistake, and the cop who made it, Mitsuo Muto, was accused of abusing his power. Later, a friend of the 19-year-old suspect found himself in cuffs for a different charge just before the statute of limitations expired on November 15, 1975. He had a substantial amount of cash with him and was considered a robbery suspect. He was only 18 when the heist took place. Cops asked him where the money came from, but he remained silent, and they couldn't prove it was from the robbery. Following a painstaking 7-year investigation, in December 1975, the police declared that the statute of limitations for the crime had expired. This meant that legal action could no longer be pursued against the thief for this particular case. As of 1988, the thief was also released from any civil liabilities, which meant he could potentially share his story without worrying about facing legal consequences. In 2001, the case gained renewed attention when it was featured on the television show Project Hex, an NHK TV series that spotlighted the achievements of Japan's greatest generation. Regarding the case, Makoto Watanabe, who works as an associate professor of media and communications, said that, there were these rumors going around that the thief had to be someone who really knew the bank inside out, their money handling procedures, the exact route the car would take and all that. But strangely, the police couldn't tie any of the bank employees to the heist, he noted. The real puzzle is not just who pulled it off, but how they managed to keep it under wraps for a whopping 50 years. That's what still fascinates people today. Even today, some people claim that this heist in Japan was one of the most meticulously organized ones, where no one lost their life and there was no violence involved. Do you have any theories about the identity of the mastermind behind it? Share your insights and comments below. Also, if you found this story as captivating as we do, and you want to stay updated on more fascinating tales and historical mysteries, don't forget to subscribe for more engaging content like this.